In the peaceful town of Glenwich, single mom Jessica Larkin was about to face a threat she never saw coming. When a trio of rowdy bikers set their sights on her, they assumed they were dealing with just another defenseless parent. What they didn't know was that her brother was a seasoned Navy SEAL, returning home after countless high-stakes missions. What began as casual intimidation would spiral into an explosive confrontation that would transform this quiet community forever. Early summer sunlight glimmered over the lush fields of Maplewood Park, where Jessica found a fleeting sense of peace watching her 4-year-old daughter, Lily, on the playground. Their bond, forged by life's daily struggles, was stronger than any challenge Jessica had faced before. Yet, in the past few weeks, a changing undercurrent hinted that Glenwich's gentle facade might hide a gathering storm. The distant hum of motorcycle engines drew her attention as they approached the park's lot, cutting through the morning calm. Jessica tried to dismiss the nagging dread until it grew impossible to ignore. She and Lily were about to be thrust into a dark conflict, one that would push Jessica's courage to its limits. Only her brother's unbreakable loyalty, honed by the fiercest training in the military, could turn the tide against a ruthless gang unprepared for the fight they were about to face. Quick pause before we continue. Welcome to Fabled Frames. Please tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's story is mind-blowing. Chapter 1. A gentle summer day. The sunlight poured onto the large green field of Maplewood Park, illuminating its tall birch trees and wide, open spaces. It was summer, and the people of the small town of Glenwich took advantage of every square foot of the vast recreational grounds. Children chased each other, squealing with delight around the playground equipment. A few families picnicked under shady trees, sipping iced tea, nibbling on homemade sandwiches, and soaking up the sense of carefree warmth that floated on the mild breeze. On the northeast edge of the park sat a lone bench under a gnarled oak tree, half in sunlight, half in shadow. Jessica Larkin, a single mother in her late 20s, rested there, her eyes intermittently flicking toward her 4-year-old daughter, Lily, who played on a bright red slide nearby. Jessica was tall and lean, with a fierce determination in her hazel eyes, though those eyes held tired circles beneath them that told a story of her daily struggles. She had dirty blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Despite her exhaustion, she radiated a warmth that was palpable, especially when directed at her daughter. Lily was a smaller version of her mother, with big brown eyes and wispy light hair that glowed like spun gold in the sunshine. Her laughter rang across the playground as she climbed up the steps of the slide again and again. Jessica wore a simple white t-shirt, faded jeans, and old sneakers, clothing that spoke of practicality over fashion. Though she was physically fit from the demands of working 2 jobs and chasing a child around, her shoulders were tense with the constant undercurrent of worry about bills, daycare, and finding more stable work. Taking a deep breath of the fresh summer air, Jessica allowed herself a rare moment of peace. This simple outing, just to let Lily run wild in a safe, open space, was worth the minor difficulties of shuffling schedules. Here, in the open space of Maplewood Park, she could briefly forget the demands of rent, groceries, utilities, and the never-ending hustle required to keep them afloat. She reminded herself that she was lucky. She had her daughter, she had her health, and she had her older brother, Caleb, who was her rock. Though he was often away, Caleb always found a way to support her. He was, after all, a Navy SEAL, and he wore that title with pride and a certain humility that Jessica both admired and cherished. But at this exact moment, Jessica was alone. Caleb was stationed far away, undertaking a classified mission whose details she didn't know. She only felt a pang of longing whenever she thought about him. She wanted to share Lily's small achievements, from counting to 10 all by herself to her first attempts at reading. It was painful to know her brother, who was practically Lily's father figure, was missing these milestones. She clung to the hope that soon enough, he would be back on leave, ready to give Lily piggyback rides and spin her around in the backyard until she collapsed in giggles. Her peaceful contemplation shattered with the distant roar of motorcycles approaching the park. Jessica looked up, shading her eyes with one hand as 3 large bikes rounded the corner on a nearby street. They glided into the parking lot adjacent to the park, engines rumbling in an ominous chorus. The riders were unmistakable. Black leather jackets, harsh stubble, half helmets, and an air of aggression that seemed to cling to them like a dark aura. Their presence was immediately felt by everyone who was within earshot. Parents turned to look, uncertainty etched on their faces. Some young kids scampered a bit closer to their families, while older kids stared in fascination at the gleaming chrome and roaring motors. Jessica tried not to assume the worst. Just because these men looked tough didn't necessarily mean they were trouble. But something in their collective swagger set her on edge. 2 of them were heavily tattooed, with menacing skull designs and large, bold insignias on their arms. The third, presumably the leader, took off his helmet and revealed a bald head with a thick black beard that was braided partway down. His cold gray eyes surveyed the park like a predator scanning for easy prey. They parked their bikes, switched off the roaring engines, and started ambling toward the green field. The silence that followed their arrival was nearly as striking as the noise of their bikes, as if every adult in the vicinity was collectively holding their breath. The trio began talking to each other, voices low but with an undeniable edge of confrontation waiting beneath every word. Jessica noticed how one of the bikers spat on the grass near a bench, ignoring the fact that a toddler was waddling nearby. An uneasy knot formed in her stomach, and she instinctively scanned the area for Lily. She exhaled when she saw Lily still happily playing on the slide, unaware of the new tension that had settled over the playground. Slowly, Jessica stood, deciding to stay close. She trusted her own instincts. When an environment changed, it was sometimes safest to be proactive. She moved toward the playground structure, fixing her gaze on her daughter. The park, which had felt so welcoming just moments before, now seemed overshadowed by the presence of these newcomers. Parents began gathering their children, some whispering among themselves. A few made the decision to pack up quickly and leave, worried that something might go wrong. Jessica watched as the bikers spotted a kiosk selling ice cream and soda a few yards to the south, and one of them headed there first. The other 2 looked around, taking in the environment with casual arrogance. For a fleeting moment, Jessica considered simply leaving with Lily, heading back to her small sedan and calling it a day. But Lily was having such a wonderful time, and Jessica felt that fleeing might only feed the notion that the presence of these men was enough to drive her away from public spaces. On the other hand, she worried about any interaction with them. She debated, heart pounding, but decided to stay a little longer, hoping she'd judged them too harshly. Her instincts told her this might be a mistake. Yet, with no immediate threat, she tried to calm herself. She moved closer to Lily, picking up the little girl and helping her swing on the monkey bars. Lily grinned from ear to ear, and for a moment, Jessica forgot the bikers. She was lost in the giggles of her daughter. But that peace would not last long. Chapter 2: Unwelcome Interruption. A short distance away, the trio of bikers converged near the ice cream kiosk, each ordering something. Their voices were loud, gruff. Jessica caught snatches of curses and crude jokes. One of them tried to flirt with the kiosk attendant, who appeared distinctly uncomfortable. Jessica tensed up all over again, trying to focus on Lily, but her body remained poised to react if something happened. After paying, the man with the braided beard turned around, ice cream cone in hand. The second biker, a wiry man with a bushy mustache and a black bandana, nudged him and pointed in Jessica's direction. She didn't catch exactly what was said, but she saw them glance her way. The third man, a towering brute with a broad chest and an eagle tattoo on his neck, followed their line of sight and chuckled, shaking his head in agreement with something the mustached biker said. At that moment, Jessica's mind raced with scenarios. None of them good. She'd done nothing to invite attention. She was just a mom, helping her daughter enjoy an afternoon. Don't engage, she told herself. So she turned away, feigning a show of ignoring them. Slowly, she guided Lily toward the small seaside area, hoping the child's delight would drown her own apprehension. Despite her best efforts at avoidance, the men started sauntering toward the playground. As they approached, parents shot them wary glances, scooping up little ones and giving the trio a wide berth. The bikers, apparently enjoying the unease they inspired, smirked and traded hushed remarks among themselves. Finally, the one with the braided beard, who seemed to be their leader, stepped forward, placing himself within a few feet of Jessica and Lily. She could smell the stale beer on his breath, along with the sharp tang of cigarette smoke embedded in his jacket. His presence felt overbearing, like a storm cloud blotting out the sun. She pretended to focus on Lily, who was bouncing lightly on one side of the seesaw, waiting for Jessica's help. "Hey there, Mama," the leader said, voice dripping with an unpleasant mix of condescension and challenge. "Nice day, ain't it?" Jessica managed a calm nod, though her heart hammered. "Yes, it is." His companions exchanged more smirks. The man with the eagle tattoo spoke next. "Cute kid." Something in his tone suggested he didn't actually care about Lily's cuteness. It was just a forced line to draw Jessica into conversation. She didn't respond but glanced at them briefly, letting her eyes show as little fear as possible. "Lily, honey, let's go over to the swings," she said quietly to her daughter. She lifted Lily off the seesaw and started to walk away, hoping the men would leave her alone. They didn't follow immediately, but she sensed their eyes tracking her every move. She made her way to the swings, helping Lily onto one. For a few moments, everything was normal again. Lily soared back and forth, squealing in excitement as Jessica pushed. In her peripheral vision, Jessica could see other parents hastily leaving. The playground that had been full of laughter 10 minutes earlier was quickly becoming deserted. The tension was palpable. For a heartbeat, Jessica allowed herself to think, maybe they'll find something else to do. Maybe they'll leave soon. She pushed Lily on the swing, focusing on the child's happy face. Perhaps these men would move on, find another target, or simply get bored. She resolved to remain alert, but not to let her imagination race too wildly. Then the men stepped closer again. This time, the one with the bandana spat on the ground near the swing set. The braided beard leader eyed Jessica carefully. "So," he drawled, "you from around here?" His manner was casual, but the underlying aggression was undeniable. Jessica forced a polite but clipped response. "Yes, we live nearby." The man with the eagle tattoo let out a short laugh, snatching a glance at Lily's small pink sneakers. "You probably can't afford to live here if you've got a kid to raise alone. Town's too expensive these days." She ignored the blatant attempt at provocation, turning her attention to Lily instead, who had slowed to a stop on the swing. "Mommy, why are those men standing there?" Lily asked innocently, her loud, curious voice not helping the tension. Jessica smiled softly, trying not to let her fear show. "They're just talking, baby. It's okay." She took Lily's hand. "Let's get some water." She walked over to the bench where she had left her small backpack and unscrewed a water bottle for Lily. But the men followed, their boots thumping on the grass. The bandana-wearing biker, mustache twitching, took a step so close that Jessica could see the pink scar that ran along his jawline. She instinctively put herself between Lily and the three men. "Don't be rude," the braided beard leader said to Jessica. "We're just making conversation." "What's your name, sweetheart?" Jessica's chest tightened. She looked around, scanning for anyone who might help. It was obvious that nearly everyone else in the park had cleared out or was heading toward the parking lot. The lone jogger in the distance had headphones on and wasn't paying attention. She felt cornered. We're just here to enjoy the day, sir. We'd rather be left alone. Sir, the eagle tattoo man repeated, grinning in a mocking way. That's polite. Hear that, Hank? She's got manners. The braided beard leader, apparently called Hank, grunted in amusement. A polite young thing indeed. Bet you've got all kinds of sweet manners. Jessica said nothing. She gently nudged Lily to stand behind her. She considered whether it was smarter to gather Lily and run or to stand her ground. If she ran, would that make them chase her? These men looked like the type who would relish chasing someone who was afraid. For a moment, Hank and his buddies seemed content just to loom menacingly. Jessica took a steadying breath. Come on, Lily, she said softly, picking up her daughter. Lily clung to her neck, sensing her mother's anxiety. She began walking toward the car at a brisk pace, praying the men would let her go. For a few seconds, it looked like they would. Then she heard footsteps behind her. The thick-chested biker with the eagle tattoo called out, "You in a hurry or something? We're just trying to be neighborly." Jessica stopped short. She realized there was no one else nearby, no one who might come to her aid if these men decided to escalate. Her mind flashed back to all her brother's advice. Keep calm. Don't show fear. Assess exits. If you have to fight, make the first move count. But she had Lily in her arms. The thought of a physical confrontation while carrying her child felt terrifying and impossible. Hank moved into her path, smirking. Let's be friends. We can chat a bit. His tone was mocking. Jessica's temper flared despite her fear. Please step aside, she said firmly. I just want to take my daughter home. What if we want to get to know you better, though? The bandana-wearing biker taunted. Ain't that right, Hank? Hank nodded, eyes locked on Jessica's. It'd be a shame if you just up and left. Clutching Lily, Jessica clenched her free hand into a fist. Her heart slammed in her chest. Don't come any closer, she warned, her voice low. She hoped they heard the seriousness in it. I'm not afraid to scream, and the police will be here in minutes if I do. Hank laughed, slow and unpleasant. Police? In this town, the nearest station's a good 10 minutes away. Who do you think's gonna get here first? Jessica swallowed. She had no illusions about how quickly local law enforcement could respond, especially if they were short-staffed today. That was partly why she preferred going places with other parents or waiting until the weekend when the park was fuller. Today, though, her schedule had forced her to come on a weekday afternoon. Now she was paying the price. She took a few steps to the side, giving Hank a wide berth, but the eagle tattoo man blocked her. Lily squirmed in her arms, sensing the tension. Tears welled in the child's eyes, and she cried, Mommy, I'm scared. Before Jessica could respond, the bandana biker reached out, lightly tugging the hem of Jessica's t-shirt, making a show of not grabbing her directly, but invading her personal space anyway. Your little brat's scared, huh? He said with a sneer. Now that's not nice to call the cops on us. We're just being neighborly, like we said. Jessica jerked her shirt out of his reach, heart pounding so loudly she thought it might burst. She was truly cornered, with nowhere to go except to keep trying to circle around them, and they were clearly enjoying the game. In the distance, a small group of teenagers on bikes noticed the unfolding scene. One of them pulled out a phone, possibly filming or maybe contemplating calling for help. But they were too far away to intervene effectively, and there were too many unknowns for them to step in. Jessica made a mental note of their presence. Maybe this would deter the bikers from doing anything too drastic. Hank stepped closer again. Why don't you show us some gratitude? We could watch your kid for you while you run errands. His grin was lecherous, his tone cruelly playful. Revulsion coursed through Jessica. Her body trembled, but her voice was surprisingly steady. Don't you dare talk about my daughter, she hissed. Move. For a moment, an unsettling quiet blanketed the scene. Hank narrowed his eyes. His companions hovered, tension in their postures. It felt like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. And then, with mocking slowness, the eagle tattoo man moved aside just enough for Jessica to pass. They seemed to take satisfaction in letting her feel victory for a moment, like a cat giving a mouse just enough space to run before pouncing. Clutching Lily to her chest, Jessica hurried toward the parking lot, forcing herself not to run outright. She knew how bullies thrived on fear, and she wouldn't give them that satisfaction, nor would she risk falling while carrying Lily. The second she reached her car, she strapped Lily into the child's seat as quickly as possible, adrenaline coursing in her veins. She glanced over her shoulder and saw the three men, arms folded, standing near the playground. All three stared in her direction, the eagle tattoo man absently licking his ice cream while glaring. His eyes were cold. She slid into the driver's seat, locked the doors, and fumbled to start the engine. Tears threatened to spill, but she choked them back. She had to hold it together for Lily. She drove away, hands trembling on the steering wheel, navigating out of the parking lot. Relief washed over her when she rounded the corner and the bikers vanished from her rearview mirror. She let out a shaky breath. Still, as she headed home, she couldn't stop her heart from racing. The confrontation was over, but her mind replayed the men's mocking voices, their invasion of her space, and the fear in Lily's eyes. She knew she'd done the right thing by leaving, but part of her was furious. Furious that she and her child had been bullied in a public park. Her fear turned to anger, and that anger momentarily flared into a fierce longing for her brother. Caleb would know exactly how to handle creeps like that. He had the training, the discipline, and the protective instincts. She wanted to call him right away, but he was deployed somewhere remote. The best she could do was send him a detailed text or an email he might see whenever he managed to get access to a secure line. She sighed, forcing herself to focus on the road. Perhaps it was for the best that he wasn't there. If he had been, she suspected the confrontation would have escalated, and who knows where that could lead. Still, something in her gut told her this wasn't the last she'd see of those men. And as she drove on, a cold knot of dread settled in the pit of her stomach, as if fate itself were whispering, "They aren't finished with you yet." Chapter 3. A Brother's Return. Days slipped by, and Jessica did her best to move on from the unsettling incident at the park. She worked her shifts, dropped Lily off at daycare, and tried to maintain a normal routine. Yet she found herself glancing warily over her shoulder whenever she left her house. Night brought uneasy dreams of roaring motorcycles, menacing laughter, and Lily crying out for help. Jessica would wake up in a cold sweat, heart hammering. She fought these anxieties alone, though. She found some comfort in confiding to her best friend, Danielle, who was sympathetic but also outraged. "You should report them to the police?" Danielle insisted, stirring sugar into her tea at Jessica's small kitchen table. "At least file a report so it's on record." Jessica nodded, lips pursed. "I thought about it, but I didn't even get their plate numbers. And I don't know their names, other than maybe Hank." She sighed. "I doubt the cops can do much about it without concrete evidence." Danielle shrugged helplessly. "I get it, but maybe we can ask around. People in town might know them." Jessica considered this. "I'm not sure if that's safe. What if word gets back to them? I don't want them coming to my house or to Lily's daycare." They both fell silent, considering the possibilities. Glenwich was relatively small and close-knit, but it was also not immune to crime. Danielle reached out and squeezed Jessica's hand. "Just promise me you'll be careful." Life continued, with Jessica carrying her fear in the back of her mind like a heavy backpack she couldn't set down. But an unexpected call changed everything. One evening, after she'd put Lily to bed, her phone buzzed with a familiar number that made her heart leap with joy. Caleb was calling. Immediately, she picked up. "Caleb?" she whispered excitedly, stepping out of Lily's bedroom so as not to wake her. She closed the door, phone pressed to her ear. "Hey, Jess," came his warm, calm voice. Just the sound of it eased her tension. "You okay? You sound out of breath." "I'm good," she lied, not wanting to overwhelm him the second he got on the phone. "Just excited to hear from you. How are you? Are you safe?" A quiet laugh crackled through the connection. "I'm fine. We've wrapped up our current task, and I'm being rotated home on leave for a while. I should be stateside next week." Tears of relief sprang to Jessica's eyes. She had missed him fiercely, and Lily had been asking about Uncle Caleb for weeks. "That's amazing news," she breathed. I've missed you and Lily too. Can't wait to see my little munchkin. Every time I get a picture, she looks bigger." Jessica laughed, heart swelling. "She's growing like a weed. She'll be so excited to see you. She's been telling everyone in daycare her uncle's a big hero." "I'm just doing my job," he said modestly. Then his tone shifted to something more serious, as if sensing her unease. "Tell me what's going on, Jess. You sound stressed." Briefly, she debated whether to tell him about the bikers, but he had enough on his mind. She didn't want him to worry about something that might never happen again. Besides, there was no guarantee these men would show their faces a second time. She took a breath. Just the usual single mom routine. Bills, exhaustion, Lily's tantrums. You know the drill. There was a long pause on the other end. She suspected Caleb didn't fully believe her. "Well, I'll be there soon," he finally said. "Hang in there. I'll call again once I have my exact flight details." She ended the call, feeling both excitement and guilt. She'd always told Caleb everything, but this time, she'd chosen silence. Partly to protect him, and partly because she didn't want to stir up a hornet's nest if the problem was gone. With a sigh, she went to her bedroom. She told herself that soon, her brother would be home, and everything would feel safer. She hoped she'd never have to mention the bikers at all. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Caleb's homecoming day arrived with bright sunshine. Jessica and Lily stood at the small regional airport near baggage claim, the child bouncing on her toes with excitement. Soldiers in fatigues passed by, reuniting with tearful spouses, hugging friends, and searching for loved ones in the waiting area. Lily held a hand-drawn sign that said, "Welcome home, Uncle Caleb," with stick figure drawings of the family. Jessica spotted her brother coming down the hallway, tall, broad-shouldered, with the same dirty blonde hair as hers, though cropped short in military fashion. He wore civilian jeans and a fitted t-shirt that did little to hide his well-defined muscles. A duffel bag was slung over one shoulder. The second Lily saw him, she shouted his name and sprinted. Caleb opened his arms wide, dropping his bag and swooping the child up in a warm, tight hug. Jessica followed, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. She wrapped her arms around Caleb once Lily loosened her grip, and for a moment, they stood there in silent reunion. The hustle and bustle of the airport receded as the siblings held on to each other. Eventually, Caleb pulled back and looked at Jessica with concern. "You've lost weight," he teased, though the worry in his eyes was real. "You better be taking care of yourself." She rolled her eyes. "You're one to talk. Are they not feeding you guys out there?" She motioned to his slim waist and the faint hollows in his cheeks. Caleb chuckled. "We stay busy, but you know me, unstoppable." He gave Lily's hair an affectionate ruffle. "So, I've got 2 weeks of leave, and the only plan I have is to spend as much time with you two as possible." Lily babbled excitedly about her favorite cartoon, the new puppy a neighbor had gotten, and how she was now a big girl. Caleb listened intently, holding her hand as they made their way to Jessica's car. The drive back to Jessica's modest house was filled with laughter. The tension Jessica had been carrying for days began to loosen. If only she could just forget the park incident entirely. But that night, as Jessica and Caleb sat in the living room sipping coffee while Lily slept, Caleb's perceptive nature got the best of him. "So," he said slowly, eyes narrowed. You're telling me there's nothing you need to fill me in on? Jessica paused, the coffee mug halfway to her lips. What do you mean? He set his mug down, leaning forward. Come on, Jess. I know you. The second I mentioned your voice sounded strained on that call, you changed the subject. I'm here now. You can tell me anything. She sighed, setting her own mug on the wooden coffee table. Her eyes roamed the cozy living room decorated with Lily's crayons and toys. Finally, she spoke, voice subdued. A few days ago, I took Lily to the park and 3 bikers showed up. She described the incident in detail, how they followed her, cornered her, refused to let her pass, and made vulgar comments. She watched her brother's face transform from concern to a quiet, dangerous anger. They threatened you? He asked, tension coiled in his tone. They intimidated us, wouldn't let us leave initially. They never physically touched me, except for one grabbing my shirt. But they were definitely looking for trouble. Caleb's jaw tightened. You go to the police? Danielle suggested that too, but I didn't see the point. I didn't get any license plate numbers. I only know one's named Hank, and they haven't shown up again. Caleb exhaled, fists clenched. I don't like it. They might be from out of town, but if they're local, it's even worse. Guys like that, they don't just pick on someone once. They keep pushing until they get what they want or get taught a lesson. Jessica's gut churned at his words, but she tried to sound hopeful. It's been days, Caleb. Maybe they've moved on. Yet even as she said it, she knew the memory of their faces still haunted her. Caleb nodded slowly, though he didn't look convinced. All right, let's hope so, but I want you to keep your phone on you at all times, and give me a heads up if you see them again. Actually, he turned, rummaging in his duffel bag, pulling out a small canister of pepper spray. Carry this. Put it on your keychain. Jessica took the pepper spray with a shaky laugh. I'll remember to do that. Though she tried to hide it, the weight on her shoulders felt a little lighter just having Caleb around. He radiated a quiet confidence, a sense of unwavering protection. For one glorious moment, Jessica believed everything would be fine now that her big brother was home. The nightmares would fade. She'd reclaim the park as a safe space for Lily. But a new storm was already brewing, one that would hit them far harder than either sibling could anticipate. Chapter 4: Unsettling Sightings. That weekend, Caleb insisted on accompanying Jessica and Lily wherever they went. On Saturday, they went grocery shopping at the local market. Caleb pushed the cart while Lily stood in it, giggling each time he tickled her sides. Jessica walked alongside, checking items off her list. Regular chores felt almost fun with Caleb around, making jokes, sneaking candy into the cart for Lily, and offering to cook dinner so Jessica could take a breather. On Sunday, they decided to revisit Maplewood Park. Jessica hesitated for a moment when Caleb first suggested it, memories of the confrontation still fresh. But he assured her he'd be there, so she relented, wanting Lily to enjoy the slides and swings again. They arrived mid-morning, the park bustling with families, joggers, and dog walkers. The earlier tension she'd felt began to dissipate. With Caleb by her side, she felt safe. They found a picnic table in a shady spot. Caleb tossed a football around with Lily, who squealed with delight every time she managed to catch it. Jessica smiled, sipping from a water bottle, enjoying the idyllic scene. The summer sunshine filtered through the leaves, creating a dappled pattern on the grass. A gentle breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass and the laughter of children. But less than an hour into their outing, Jessica felt a chill roll down her spine. She was scanning the parking lot in a moment of idle curiosity when she spotted something that made her stomach drop. There, on the far side, were 3 motorcycles, black with chrome trim, and one of the riders, tall with an eagle tattoo clearly visible even from a distance, swung his leg off the bike. Her breath caught in her throat. Could it be them? She swallowed hard, heart pounding. She glanced at Caleb, who was currently spinning Lily around in the grass. What were the odds that it was just 3 different bikers with a similar style? Yet, as she looked closely, she recognized the broad build of the man with the eagle tattoo, the distinctive braided beard on the second biker who removed his helmet. Fear raked over her. They were the same men. She stood up, adrenaline beginning to flow. Caleb immediately noticed her change in posture and expression. He walked over, Lily trailing behind. "What's wrong?" She didn't speak but gestured with a trembling finger to the far side of the parking lot. Caleb followed her gaze, eyes narrowing. "That's them?" he asked quietly. Jessica nodded. I think so. Yes. I recognized the bearded guy and the one with the eagle neck tattoo. The third must have the bandana." Caleb's lips pressed into a thin line. "Stay here with Lily," he said softly. "I'll deal with this." Alarm surged in Jessica. "Caleb, no. We should just leave." "Jess," he replied gently but firmly. "This is a public park. You and Lily have every right to be here. I'm not going to let these creeps chase you out again." Her mind warred with itself. Part of her was terrified that a confrontation would turn violent in front of Lily. Another part remembered how humiliated she felt, how powerless she'd been. She glanced at Lily, who was looking up at them with wide eyes, not fully understanding the tension. "Okay," Jessica managed, "but don't go looking for trouble. We'll keep a distance. Just watch them." Caleb gave a nod. He bent down to Lily's level, ruffling her hair. "Hey, kiddo, let's go back to our picnic table, huh?" Jessica steered Lily toward the table, but her eyes kept darting across the park to where the bikers stood. She watched the men remove their helmets and chat briefly. Then they began walking toward the main field. The one named Hank, braided beard, cold gray eyes, seemed to be scanning the area, just as he'd done before. Jessica fought the urge to hide behind a tree. Caleb seated himself beside her, posture relaxed but gaze intense. He studied the men's movements. He noticed how they strolled, sizing up anyone who made eye contact, exuding a predatory aura. None of the bikers had noticed Jessica or Caleb yet. They seemed to be taking stock of the environment, maybe deciding where to hang out next. Lily asked if she could go swing on the monkey bars again, and Jessica reluctantly agreed, as long as they stayed close by. Caleb stood up casually. "Let's go over together. I'll spot you, Lily." Jessica followed, half her attention on the child, half on the bikers who were slowly ambling toward the playground. Soon, the confrontation Jessica dreaded became inevitable. The men noticed Jessica, and if there was any doubt, it vanished the moment Hank's eyes lit upon her. A wide, unpleasant grin spread across his face. He pointed her out to his companions, and the trio changed direction, heading toward the monkey bars. Jessica's heart sped up. Caleb leaned down to whisper in her ear, "Keep Lily on the bars for now. Let me handle this if they come near." His tone was quiet but rang with authority, an assurance that she didn't have to cower this time. "He's a Navy SEAL," she reminded herself, "and these men have no idea who they're dealing with." The bikers approached, their stances casual yet menacing. Hank was in front. He looked at Jessica, flicked his gaze to Lily, then to Caleb and back again. Well, he drawled. "Didn't expect to see you here again. You bring a friend this time." Jessica said nothing, but her chin lifted just a fraction, refusing to be cowed. Caleb stepped between Jessica and the trio, arms at his sides but clearly ready. "That's right," Caleb said calmly, voice low. "I'm her brother. Can I help you?" The eagle tattoo biker let out a short bark of laughter. "Ah, family day at the park. How sweet." Caleb's eyes were cold, measuring the distance between them. "We're not looking for trouble, but you're going to leave my sister alone." His tone was quiet, but the threat was unmistakable. Hank took a slow step forward, looking Caleb up and down. He seemed to notice the military posture, the calm, almost predatory stillness. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced by bravado. "Your sister was real friendly last time we met," he sneered. "And we were hoping for a proper goodbye." Without warning, the bandana-wearing biker stepped closer, voice dripping with mock concern. "Is that right, honey? You want to say hi?" Jessica's blood boiled. She fought the urge to cower, forcing herself to stand tall. Caleb, however, tensed, fists clenching subtly. He angled his body, placing himself firmly between the men and Jessica. "I said," Caleb repeated, his voice never rising but gaining an edge of steel. "Leave her alone." His glare flicked from one face to the other, daring them to push it further. Tension crackled in the air. Hank narrowed his eyes. "You got a big mouth, boy. Park is public property. We can talk to whoever we want." Caleb's lips curled in a smirk. "Talking is one thing. Harassment is another." "Harassment?" the eagle tattoo man mocked. "Big word from a guy who doesn't know his place." At that, Caleb shifted his stance, and Jessica recognized the subtle motion for what it was. A readiness posture. In the corner of her vision, she saw Lily monkeying across the bars, oblivious to the standoff. Jessica's gut churned, but she refused to move away. She trusted Caleb to handle it. She wouldn't be chased out again. Hank stared at Caleb for several long seconds. Some unspoken understanding passed between them. Hank's bravado warred with self-preservation, as though he couldn't quite gauge Caleb's capabilities. Finally, he scoffed. "Whatever, man. We've got better things to do." He spat on the ground again, then motioned to his buddies. "Let's move." They turned and strode away, heading toward the far side of the park. Caleb's gaze followed them, his body still taut like a coiled spring. Jessica exhaled a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Relief mingled with apprehension. The men had walked away, but her instincts told her the conflict was far from over. She turned to Caleb, voice trembling. "Thank you." He gave a curt nod, eyes still locked on the bikers' retreating forms. "Keep Lily close. I don't think they'll do anything here with so many witnesses. But let's not stay too long." Jessica agreed. They helped Lily finish her playtime, though Jessica's heart wasn't in it anymore. She kept looking over her shoulder, feeling the bikers' stares even if she couldn't see them. After about 20 minutes, they packed up and left. The entire drive home, she kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see motorcycles on their tail. None appeared, but the sense of looming trouble refused to ease. By the time they arrived home, Caleb was in a dark mood. He paced the living room while Jessica put Lily down for a nap. When she returned, he turned to her, arms folded. "I know you want to believe this is over, but it's not. I've seen types like them before. Small-time bullies who think they're invincible. They won't forget a perceived slight." Jessica sighed, shoulders slumping. "What can we do?" "First off, I'm going to talk to a friend of mine in the local police department. We need a record of this, even if it's just a heads up that these guys are around. Also, I want to figure out who they are, where they hang out." He paused, and for a moment Jessica saw the steely seal behind the caring brother. "We can't let them keep terrorizing you, or anyone else." She shivered, fear tangling with gratitude. "Just promise me you'll be careful." He gave a reassuring smile, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, this is my specialty. Dealing with men who think they're above the law. I'll keep you and Lily safe." Despite his confidence, Jessica couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that they were poking a sleeping dragon. But she said nothing, letting her brother plan. She wanted this over with. She wanted to walk in her neighborhood without fear, to take Lily to the park without scanning for motorcycles. If anyone could resolve it, it was Caleb. Little did either of them realize, the confrontation that lay ahead would be far more dangerous than a mere playground standoff. They had drawn a line in the sand, and the bikers would not hesitate to cross it. Chapter 5. Digging for Trouble. True to his word, Caleb used his first weekday off to visit a local police contact, Officer Miranda Hayes. He'd met her years before at a town charity event during one of his leaves. She was a seasoned cop who prided herself on knowing every shady character in Glenwich. Jessica stayed home with Lily, brimming with nervous energy, waiting to hear what he would learn. Caleb found Officer Hayes at the police station, leaning over a desk piled with paperwork. She greeted him warmly. "Caleb Larkin, back in town and already causing trouble?" she teased with a grin. He explained the situation, describing the bikers, the intimidation at the park, the near physical confrontation. Hayes listened intently, occasionally taking notes. When he mentioned Hank's braided beard and the eagle-tattooed man, her brow furrowed. That might be Hank Fuller and Sam Eagle Balmer. They run with a small MC motorcycle club just outside city limits. They call themselves the Iron Serpents. Not exactly a large outfit, but they're known for petty crime, bar fights, vandalism, minor drug trafficking. They usually stay under the radar unless they get drunk and rowdy. Caleb's jaw tightened. "They're harassing my sister. I won't stand for it." Hayes sighed. "I understand. Look, we've had run-ins with them. They're intimidating, but we haven't nailed them for anything big yet. If your sister's willing to file a formal complaint, we can at least put it on record. But without hard evidence, photos, videos, or them actually assaulting someone, charges might not stick." "Jessica's got a friend who might have witnessed the first incident," Caleb offered. "Or maybe some folks at the park saw today's confrontation." Hayes shrugged. "That could help, but it might still be thin. We can try, though. I'll keep an eye out for them. In the meantime, I'd advise your sister to steer clear of trouble. If these guys escalate, we'll step in, but we can't do much preemptively." Caleb's frustration simmered under the surface. "Understood, but I won't let these men keep bullying people." Hayes placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Your training is a definite asset, but be careful. If you go outside the law, it'll complicate things for Jessica as well." He nodded, though inwardly he seethed. He left the station with some new knowledge but no clear path to resolution. Back home, he relayed everything to Jessica. She clutched her mug of tea with pale knuckles. "So they're part of a gang," she said quietly. "How are we supposed to fight that?" "It's not a big gang," Caleb assured her. "We'll file a complaint. If they show up again, we record them with our phones, gather evidence. If they threaten us, we get them on tape. If they attack, the police will have reason to arrest them." Jessica swallowed hard. "I don't like the idea of them attacking us, though." Caleb sat beside her on the couch, resting an arm around her shoulders. "They might not. Bullies often back down when they realize their target can fight back. And if they do push it, we'll handle it." She closed her eyes, leaning her head against him. He smelled of soap and the faintest hint of gun oil, a strange but comforting combination. "I trust you," she whispered, though a knot of dread still coiled in her stomach. That evening, as the sky turned a fiery orange, Caleb did an online search for local motorcycle clubs with the name Iron Serpents. He found an address linked to a small roadside bar on the outskirts of Glenwich, a place called Maddox's Roadhouse. Online reviews mentioned rowdy crowds, cheap booze, and occasional fights. It seemed to be a hangout for bikers passing through or living in the fringes of the county. Jessica watched him over his shoulder. "You're not planning to go there, are you?" He closed the browser, jaw set. "Not tonight," he said. "But I might if they keep harassing you. I'd rather talk to them on neutral ground, without Lily around." "That sounds dangerous," Jessica replied, voice trembling despite her efforts to stay calm. "Dangerous is my job," Caleb answered, a slight grin tugging at his lips. "Look, I'm not going in guns blazing, but I do want them to know you're off limits. Sometimes, a direct message is enough." She could only nod, though her instincts screamed that stepping into a biker bar to confront a small gang would be anything but safe. Night settled in and Lily dozed peacefully. Jessica sat on the couch, lights low, while Caleb scanned a local map. Her mind wandered to worst-case scenarios. What if the bikers followed her home from work one night? What if they cornered Lily at her daycare? She shuddered at the thought, pressing a hand to her mouth. Caleb noticed her fear and placed a comforting hand on hers. "I promise, Jess. I won't let anything happen to you or Lily." His resolve was unwavering, but Jessica still felt a chill. She remembered the look in Hank's eyes at the park, like a hungry wolf deciding whether to pounce. The law offered only so much protection. The rest would come down to Caleb's skill and courage. She prayed that would be enough. Chapter 6. Tensions mount. The following days remained tense but uneventful. Caleb accompanied Jessica and Lily to daycare, to the grocery store, and on every errand. Jessica insisted that she could manage on her own, but he refused to budge. "I'm here on leave," he reminded her. "I can spare the time." By the week's end, Jessica almost began to relax. Maybe the bikers had truly lost interest. But late on Friday night, while Jessica and Lily were asleep, Caleb sat up reading on the living room couch. Suddenly, he heard the distinct rumble of motorcycles near the house, faint but growing louder. He stood up, heart pounding. Through the front window, he spotted the glow of headlights. He quickly turned off the living room lamp, dousing the house in darkness. He peered through the curtains, watching as 3 motorcycles crawled down the otherwise quiet suburban street. The riders lingered in front of Jessica's house for a moment, engines idling. Even from inside, Caleb could hear the men's muffled laughter. Then, one revved his engine with a thunderous roar that rattled the windows. After a few more seconds, they roared off down the street, disappearing into the night. Caleb's fists clenched. This was more than a coincidence. They'd come here deliberately to send a message. He quickly checked the locks on every door and window. The last thing he wanted was for them to do something more brazen, like throw a rock through the window or attempt to break in. But the night remained silent after their departure. The next morning, he told Jessica what had happened. She looked pale as she served Lily's breakfast. "They know where I live," she whispered, glancing at Lily, who was busy sprinkling sugar on her cereal. "This is going to escalate, isn't it?" "Not if I can help it," Caleb replied grimly. He made another call to Officer Hayes, reporting the late-night harassment. She promised to drive by the neighborhood more often and advised them to keep a record of every incident. Still, Jessica felt exposed. She considered taking Lily to stay with Danielle for a while, but Caleb suggested it might be riskier to split up. "They need to see you're not alone or scared," he insisted. "Me and you, we stay together. If we hide, they'll smell fear." Jessica agreed, though every instinct told her to run. Through the weekend, they stayed mostly at home, vigilant. Caleb made sure the yard was secure, lights installed on the porch, and that Jessica's phone was always charged. He even taught her a few self-defense moves in the living room after Lily went to bed. She tried her best to memorize the techniques, but her nerves made it hard to concentrate. Early the next week, Jessica had to return to her job. She worked as a personal trainer at a local fitness center, ironically teaching self-defense classes to beginners as part of a women's empowerment program. Normally, she took pride in helping others feel strong, but now she fought an internal battle against her own fear. Caleb drove her to work, dropping Lily at daycare first, and then parking in front of the gym to watch her go in. "I'll be here at the end of your shift," he said, scanning the parking lot for any sign of trouble. Jessica forced a smile. "Thanks." Her shift was uneventful. She taught a small group of women how to break free from simple wrist grabs and chokeholds, ironically aware that she might need these skills if the bikers showed up. After class, she helped a few clients with their regular training regimens, spotting them at the weight machines. By the time her shift ended, she felt exhausted, both physically and mentally. Yet she found no sign of the iron serpents outside when she left the gym. Caleb grinned, leaning against her car. "See? No problem," he said, opening the passenger door for her. She sank into her seat, exhaling. "I can't live like this forever." He squeezed her shoulder. "You won't have to." But that night brought a chilling message. As they went to bring the trash cans up from the curb, Jessica spotted something stuffed into the mailbox. She pulled it out, expecting junk mail. Instead, she found a single, grimy piece of paper folded in half. Opening it, she read the words scrawled in black marker. "We know where you live. Back off." Her hands shook. She showed it to Caleb, who read it, jaw clenched. "They're trying to intimidate us," he muttered. "They don't want the police on their tails." Jessica's eyes burned with tears. "I can't believe this is happening in Glenwich." He put an arm around her. "We'll report this. They're crossing a line." And so they did. Officer Hayes came by in person this time, examining the note and taking photos. She frowned. "It's not enough to charge anyone specifically, but we'll step up patrols. Do you want to consider protective custody?" Jessica shook her head vigorously. "I have a job. Lily has daycare. We can't just hide indefinitely." Caleb added, "I can protect them." Hayes sighed. "All right, but stay vigilant. And call us if anything happens. Even the smallest thing." After she left, Jessica paced in the living room. "I hate this. I hate feeling scared and helpless. I want them gone." Caleb gently grasped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his calm gaze. "They're pushing us. We push back, but smartly. I don't want you or Lily in danger." Jessica stared at him, swallowing her panic. "I trust you, Caleb. Just do what you need to do." He nodded, the tension in his eyes hinting at the seriousness of what lay ahead. The lines in the sand were drawn deeper now. The iron serpents had made it clear. They wanted Jessica to back off, to remain a frightened, silent victim. But with Caleb in town, she was no longer alone, and that fact would soon come to a head in a way none of them could have predicted. Chapter 7: The Bar Confrontation. By the middle of the second week, Caleb had heard enough. Jessica was anxious, and Lily was asking why her mom seemed so sad all the time. The child didn't grasp the full threat, only that their routines had changed and tension floated in the air. Meanwhile, Caleb's days of leave were ticking away. He refused to leave Glenwich until he was sure Jessica and Lily were safe, but he had to plan carefully. He decided to take a calculated risk, confront the iron serpents on their own turf, the roadside bar called Maddox's Roadhouse. He didn't tell Jessica his plan until the night he was leaving, knowing she'd object. Sure enough, when he explained he was going out to handle something, her face fell. "Caleb, this is crazy," she whispered, glancing at Lily playing in the living room. "You can't just walk into a biker bar and force them to stop." He zipped up a black hoodie over his t-shirt, slipping a small pocket knife into his jeans. "I can reason with them, show them it's not worth the trouble. Maybe they'll back down if they realize we won't be intimidated." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "What if they jump you? What if you get hurt? Or worse?" He pulled her into a tight hug. "I'm not going to do anything reckless," he promised. "I just want them to know I can find them, just like they found you." She sniffed, nodding reluctantly. "Come back safe." Caleb ruffled Lily's hair goodbye, telling her he'd be back soon, and drove off in his old pickup. Maddox's Roadhouse was a few miles outside Glenwich, along a winding highway that snaked through farmland. Its neon sign flickered ominously against the dark, a battered parking lot filled with motorcycles and beaten-up trucks. He pulled into an empty slot near the front door, turned off the engine, and scanned the lot. Sure enough, there were at least half a dozen bikes. The sign over the door flickered half-lit, as if announcing the place's rough edges. Caleb took a breath, stepping out. He wasn't naive, he knew this was risky. but he also knew how men like Hank operated. Sometimes a direct confrontation was all that got through. Inside, the bar reeked of beer, stale smoke, and fried food. A jukebox played an old rock tune in the corner. People crowded around a couple of pool tables, the clack of balls echoing through the air. Caleb's eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, sweeping over the patrons. Several were sporting leather vests emblazoned with a coiled serpent patch, proof he was in the right place. He spotted Hank at a table near the back, flanked by the eagle tattoo man, Sam, and the bandana-wearing fellow, Kyle. They were laughing, drinks in hand. Caleb approached slowly, weaving through the crowd. Hank glanced up, eyes narrowing in surprise. He motioned for his companions to look. Well, Hank said with a lazy grin. If it ain't Mr. Tough Guy from the park. His voice was loud enough to draw attention from nearby tables. More than a few curious glances darted toward Caleb. Caleb stopped a few feet away, standing tall. Hank Fuller, right? Hank's brow arched. You know my name. Did your homework? Caleb nodded, looking from one biker to the next. I came to talk. Sam chuckled, showing off nicotine-stained teeth. Here? You're a brave one. Kyle smirked, leaning back. Or stupid. Caleb remained calm. You've been harassing my sister, riding by her house at night, leaving threatening notes. It ends now. A hush fell over the nearby patrons, who sensed potential violence. Hank traded amused looks with his friends. And if it doesn't? Caleb's voice was level, but a vein pulsed in his neck. Then you'll regret it. Leave her alone. Hank snorted. Or what, soldier boy? Caleb stiffened. Or I'll bring the law down on you. And if that doesn't work, I'll come back. He let the threat linger in the air. The tension around them ratcheted up. A few other Iron Serpent's members, scattered around the bar, began to close in. Caleb sensed movement behind him. Carefully, he shifted his stance, aware he could be surrounded in seconds. Hank took a swig of beer, then slammed the bottle down. You think you can just walk in here and threaten us in our own place? Sam nodded, cracking his knuckles. This guy's got nerve. Caleb held his ground. I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you, stay away from Jessica and her daughter. No more late-night rides past her house. No more intimidation. Hank stood up slowly, pushing his chair back with a screech. He was tall, nearly as tall as Caleb, and solidly built. You want to talk intimidation? Standing here, telling me how to run my business. He gestured to the serpent patch on his vest. We don't answer to you. We do what we want. Caleb's eyes flicked around, counting at least 3 other bikers edging closer. This was dangerous territory. Still, he had no intention of backing down. Your business is crossing a line when it targets my family, he replied, voice steady. I won't allow it. Hank chuckled, the sound low and menacing. Who's gonna stop us? You. He flexed his shoulders, stepping closer to Caleb. You might think you're hot stuff, but you're alone here. My guys could break you in half. Caleb's fists clenched at his sides. Try it. The challenge hovered in the air, crackling like static electricity. Hank's face contorted in a sneer. He feinted forward slightly, as though to test Caleb's reflexes. Caleb didn't flinch, but inside he prepared for a sudden onslaught. He recalled his training, how to handle multiple attackers, how to keep them from circling behind. Sam stepped up beside Hank, eyeing Caleb with predatory glee. Kyle circled to the other side, while a few more from the pool tables inched forward. The bartender, a wizened older man, watched with a resigned look. He'd seen many fights in this place, but the tension here was different. Then Hank raised his hand, gesturing for the men to hold off. He locked eyes with Caleb. I'll tell you what, hero, he spat. I'll let you leave here with your bones intact, on one condition. What's that? Caleb asked warily. You and your sister move out of town. Go wherever you came from. Don't show your faces again. That's your only shot at avoiding trouble." Hank's eyes burned with a twisted eagerness, like he relished the idea of a fight but was testing to see if he could avoid a direct confrontation. Maybe aware that a trained ex-military man could do serious damage, Caleb shook his head. "She was born and raised in Glenwich. She's not going anywhere. The only ones leaving will be you, if you push this." Hank's facade of patience cracked. He closed the distance between them with a sudden lunge, jabbing a finger at Caleb's chest. "Look here, tough guy, we make the rules. Not you." Caleb stepped back just enough to avoid direct contact, eyes flashing. "You've made your choice, then?" Snarling, Hank looked at Sam and Kyle. "Boys, let's show him what happens when..." Before he could finish, Caleb acted. He slammed Hank's extended arm aside, pivoted, and delivered a swift elbow to Sam's face as the eagle-tattooed biker lunged. Sam stumbled back with a curse, blood spewing from his nose. Kyle rushed in, swinging a wild punch. Caleb ducked, hooking his leg behind Kyle's knee and sending him crashing to the floor. For an instant, the entire bar froze. Then chaos erupted. Another iron serpent charged Caleb from behind, but Caleb whirled, driving his forearm into the attacker's throat. The man gagged, stumbling back into a nearby table. Bottles clattered to the ground, shattering. Now Hank roared with anger, launching himself at Caleb in a flurry of blows. They traded punches. Caleb's knuckles connected with Hank's jaw, sending the biker stumbling into a bar stool. But Hank was strong and tough. He shrugged it off, aiming a savage kick at Caleb's thigh. Caleb pivoted, blocking most of the impact, but the blow still rattled him. He inhaled, adrenaline spiking. Sam, blood dripping from his nose, tried to blindside Caleb with a broken beer bottle. Caleb narrowly avoided the jagged edges by twisting aside and snapping out a kick that sent Sam's hand flying. The broken bottle skittered across the floor. Kyle, having scrambled to his feet, lunged again, tackling Caleb around the waist. They collided with a wooden column, breath whooshing from Caleb's lungs. But he recovered quickly, bringing his knee up into Kyle's ribs, making the biker wheeze in pain. The bartender shouted something about taking the fight outside, but nobody listened. A cluster of other patrons had formed a ring around the combatants, cheering and jeering. Some seemed eager for violence. Others watched with morbid curiosity. The bar was in full brawl mode, though so far it was mostly the iron serpents piling on Caleb. Another one dashed forward, swinging a pool cue. Caleb managed to duck, and the cue smashed a hanging light fixture instead, sending sparks raining down. Caleb knew he couldn't keep this up forever. There were simply too many. He had to find a way out or end the fight decisively. He spotted Hank standing to one side, wiping blood from his lip, eyes dark with hatred. That was the leader. If Caleb took him out, maybe the others would back down. Without hesitation, Caleb launched himself at Hank, feinting a punch to the torso before shifting up to deliver a stunning blow to the chin. Hank staggered, but managed to remain upright. He countered with a vicious hook that caught Caleb on the shoulder. Pain flared, but Caleb powered through, grappling with Hank and twisting the biker's arm behind his back. Hank yelled in pain as Caleb forced him down, face pressed to the sticky bar floor. Sam and Kyle lurched forward to intervene, but Caleb tightened his grip, pulling Hank's arm higher. "Come any closer and I snap it," he warned, voice a lethal growl. The men hesitated, but only for a moment. That moment was enough. Caleb rose quickly, shoving Hank forward into Sam and Kyle. The three bikers collided, toppling together. Seizing the opening, Caleb backed away, positioning himself near the exit. His breath came in ragged gasps, and he was sure he'd have bruises come morning. The iron serpents scrambled to their feet, furious but uncertain. They outnumbered him, but he'd already taken down several of them in seconds. Caleb pointed at Hank, who was propped on one knee, breathing heavily. "This ends tonight," Caleb rasped. "Stay away from Jessica. Stay away from her house. Or next time." He paused, letting his gaze sweep over them. "Next time, you won't be getting back up." For a tense moment, neither side moved. Then Hank's lip curled. "Get out!" he snarled. Blood streaked across his cheek. "Get the hell out before I change my mind." Caleb moved toward the door, eyes never leaving the bikers. He slipped out into the night, the bar's door slamming shut behind him. He forced himself not to run as he crossed the parking lot. Just as he reached his truck, the bar door burst open. Cal stood there, shouting, "We're gonna find you. We're gonna find your sister." Caleb ignored him, jumping into his truck and peeling out of the lot. His hands shook on the steering wheel as he sped back toward town. He felt a mix of triumph, relief, and a creeping dread. He'd held his own, but that confrontation was sure to stoke the Iron Serpent's fury. What if they retaliated harder? He didn't regret defending Jessica, but he feared the war had just begun. That fear was confirmed when, about halfway back home, he noticed headlights in his rearview mirror. Motorcycle headlights. 3 bikes roaring up behind him at high speed. The bikers had wasted no time. They wanted immediate revenge. Caleb gritted his teeth, pressing down on the accelerator. The chase was on, and he had to ensure they didn't follow him to Jessica's house. He was on a dark stretch of country road, no immediate traffic. The bikes gained on him, their engines howling in the night. He whipped the truck around a sharp bend, tires squealing. The motorcycles followed close, headlights bobbing. He considered his options. Call the police or lose them on the back roads he knew so well. Adrenaline surged again as he veered onto a side route, one that twisted through farmland. Perhaps he could lose them in a maze of dirt roads. The bikers stuck behind him, unrelenting. Closer, closer they came, until he could almost see their faces in the side mirrors. One drew alongside the truck, brandishing a chain, and whipped it at the driver's side window. The glass cracked under the impact. Caleb cursed, swerving to the right. The biker fell back, regrouping with his companions. For several harrowing minutes, the cat-and-mouse game continued. Caleb's truck rumbled over ruts and potholes. Dust kicked up behind him, making it harder for the bikers to see. He kept his foot on the gas, ignoring the strain on his engine. At last, near a dilapidated barn, he spotted a narrow lane that cut through a cornfield, a place he knew well from boyhood explorations. Without hesitation, he jerked the wheel, plunging onto the barely visible path. The corn stalks towered on either side, slapping the truck as he barreled through. The bikes hesitated at the entrance of the lane. 2 followed, 1 hung back. Within seconds, the stalks obscured the moonlight, and the path curved sharply. Caleb navigated it from memory. By the time the bikers were fully committed, he slammed the brakes, quickly turned off the headlights, and pulled behind an abandoned tractor. He waited, heart hammering, as the roar of motorcycle engines came closer. The riders swept by, their headlights unable to illuminate Caleb's hiding spot. They carried on deeper into the field, presumably thinking they would corner him. But he stayed hidden, headlights off, engine idling. Minutes ticked by, and eventually the roar of the engines faded. He let out a shaky breath, reversing carefully back out onto the road. The night was silent again. As he drove away, battered truck and cracked window, Caleb realized the gravity of the situation. He'd made a statement, but the Iron Serpents had responded in kind, and this was only the start. They'd be gunning for him now. He needed a new plan to keep Jessica and Lily safe. With each passing mile, the reality sank in. By confronting the gang directly, he'd escalated a dangerous feud, one that wouldn't end until someone backed down, or was forced to. He couldn't let it be them. He wouldn't let it be Jessica. And if necessary, he was prepared to go to war. Chapter 8. a terrifying twist. Caleb limped back into Jessica's house late that night, slumping against the closed front door. His lip was split, knuckles bruised, and he winced when he touched his bruised ribs. The busted truck window had left tiny shards of glass stuck in his hoodie sleeve. For a moment, he just stood there, catching his breath. Jessica rushed out from the living room, face pale. "Oh my God, Caleb!" She immediately pressed a hand to her mouth, horror in her eyes. He managed a grim smile. "I'm okay. Just some scrapes." She guided him to the couch, rummaging for the first aid kit. "Tell me what happened." Her voice shook, and tears threatened to fall. He explained the bar confrontation and the chase. She listened, eyes wide, as she cleaned the blood from his lip and applied antiseptic. When he finished, she blew out a shaky breath. "You could have been killed." He shrugged. "I've been in worse scrapes, believe me, but they know we won't roll over. That might make them back off or get even more angry." Jessica finished quietly. Caleb nodded. "We'll stay on guard. You and Lily don't leave the house without me. Understood?" She nodded, her expression solemn. "Understood." 3 days went by without incident, but the lull only heightened their nerves. Jessica jumped at every engine sound. Lily sensed the tension, and Caleb remained hyper-aware of any potential surveillance. Each night, they half expected the roar of motorcycles outside. Yet none came. On the 4th day, Jessica had an early shift at the gym. Caleb drove her and Lily in, dropping Lily off first. "I'll stay parked near the gym for your entire shift," he offered. She insisted he didn't need to babysit her workplace, but he refused to leave her side. So she sighed and let him stay. The hours dragged. Jessica emerged from the gym around lunchtime, exhausted from teaching back-to-back classes. She spotted Caleb's truck in the lot, no longer sporting a broken window but a sheet of plastic taped where the glass used to be. Her heart twisted at the memory of his narrow escape. She climbed in. "Ready to get Lily?" he asked. She nodded. "Yeah. Let's go pick her up and grab some groceries on the way home." They drove through Glenwich, stopping at the daycare center. Jessica hopped out to get Lily, hurrying inside. It was a small, cheerful building painted bright blue, with a colorful sign reading, "Bright Beginnings Daycare." She waved at the receptionist and headed to Lily's classroom. To her surprise, the teacher, Ms. Carmen, looked anxious. "Jessica, I'm sorry, but your brother already picked Lily up. He said it was an emergency." Jessica froze. "My brother?" "Caleb's outside in the truck." Ms. Carmen's eyes widened. "But he was wearing a cap and said he was your brother. He showed a photo of you and Lily on his phone. Lily seemed to recognize him. He said he had to take her to you right away." Ice flooded Jessica's veins. She realized the horrifying truth. A stranger had come to pick up Lily, and Lily, being only 4, might have been tricked. Miss Carmen was near tears. "He had the right photo, Jess," she whispered. "He acted so convincing." "I'm so sorry." Jessica's breath came in panicked bursts. "We have to call the police," she managed. She sprinted down the hallway, phone already in hand, tears burning her eyes. "They have Lily. Oh God, no. They have my daughter." She burst outside, face stark with terror. Caleb jumped out of the truck at her panicked expression. "Jess? What's wrong?" She could barely speak. Someone took Lily, pretending to be you." Caleb's world tilted on its axis. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to focus. "Who took her? When?" Jessica sobbed. "I don't know. Miss Carmen said it was my brother. They must have had a photo of me and Lily. It has to be the Iron Serpents. Her knees buckled, and Caleb caught her. A cold, deadly rage coursed through him. In an instant, he dialed 911, heart pounding. He gave the operator details, voice clipped and urgent. Jessica stood beside him, shaking like a leaf, tears streaming down her face. She clutched her phone, calling Officer Hayes directly, leaving a frantic message. "They have Lily. Please help us." Within minutes, patrol cars arrived, lights flashing, sirens wailing. Miss Carmen tearfully explained to the officers how the man had come in, claimed an emergency, shown a photo on his phone, and Lily, in her innocent trust, had gone with him. "He even had a decent resemblance to your brother," Miss Carmen sobbed to Jessica. "Facial hair, same hair color." "I'm so sorry." Jessica clung to Caleb, heart in her throat. "My baby's gone." She pictured Lily's terrified face, whisked away by violent men. For the first time in her life, Jessica felt pure, unfiltered terror. Caleb fought to remain calm, answering the police's questions. The cops immediately dispatched an Amber Alert, describing Lily's physical features and the suspect's possible identity. Officer Hayes arrived, face grave. She pulled Caleb aside. "We suspect the Iron Serpents, obviously. Kidnapping is a huge escalation. We'll do everything we can, but we need any info on where they might have taken her. Associates, hideouts, anything." Caleb's mind raced. They have a clubhouse, or possibly they used that bar as a base. They could be stashing her anywhere. The horror of his own words twisted his gut. Hayes nodded. "We'll start searching. But Caleb, these guys must be serious. They know kidnapping a child is a major felony. They won't do that lightly. They're either planning to force your hand or exact revenge. You need to let us handle this." He swallowed. "I can't just sit here." Hayes's voice was firm but compassionate. "They'll expect you to come after them. Let us do our job. If you go off half-cocked," he shook his head, "you know I can handle myself. But Lily, she's only 4. She must be so scared." His voice broke. For a moment, the hardened seal was gone, replaced by an uncle desperate to save his niece. Hayes sighed, glancing at Jessica, who was crumpled on the curb, tears streaming, surrounded by comforting daycare staff. "We'll find her," Hayes promised, "but be ready for them to contact you. They might use Lily as leverage." Caleb nodded, his heart pounding. Leverage. That word ignited pure rage within him. He clenched his fists, picturing Hank's sneering face, the same man who had threatened Jessica at the park. They had Lily now. The stakes had never been higher. The cops fanned out, starting searches in known biker haunts, while others combed through traffic cams and license plate readers. Caleb hovered near Jessica, who rocked back and forth, face pale, eyes distant. He knelt beside her, taking her hand. "We will get her back," he vowed, voice shaking with emotion. "I swear on my life." She met his gaze, tears glistening. "Caleb, if anything happens to her—" "It won't," he said fiercely. "It won't." But deep down, he knew they were in the fight of their lives. This was no longer about intimidation or territory. The Iron Serpents had taken Lily, a little girl, innocent and helpless, and the thought of what they might do if Caleb didn't comply made his blood run cold. As the afternoon stretched on, the sun sinking lower in the sky, the police search intensified. So far, no leads. Jessica's phone remained silent, no ransom call coming in. Caleb felt like he was going mad, the seconds ticking away. Where was Lily? Was she crying for her mother, trapped in some grimy hideout? Finally, at dusk, Jessica's phone buzzed. She jumped, nearly dropping it. Unknown number. She answered, voice trembling. "Hello." A low, mocking voice, slightly distorted. "Looking for your kid? Sweetheart? Tell your brother he's messed with the wrong people." Jessica gasped, tears welling. "Lily, please," she sobbed. "Is she okay?" A muffled whimper came through the line. A small, terrified voice. "Mama!" Jessica's heart shattered, hearing Lily's cry. She pressed a hand over her mouth, stifling a scream. The voice returned. "She's alive for now. You tell that seal to back down." No more police, no more meddling, or we bury the brat. The call disconnected. Jessica stared at the phone, numb. Caleb cursed under his breath, gently taking the phone and handing it to Hayes. She dispatched tech teams to trace the call, though it might be a burner phone. Hayes turned to Caleb. We'll do everything by the book, but we need time. You have to let us handle this carefully. Time. Lily didn't have time. Caleb's mind swirled with images of that bar, the farm roads, the clubhouse rumored to be in some rundown warehouse. He decided then and there that if the police couldn't move fast enough, he would. Jessica needed him to be unstoppable. Lily needed him to do whatever it took. But even as he steeled himself for the next step, he couldn't ignore the panic creeping into his veins. Child kidnappings often ended in tragedy if not resolved quickly. And these men weren't novices at intimidation. They'd proven they were willing to cross the line. Now the line was a dot in the distance. He clenched his fists, turned to the setting sun, and made a silent vow. He would find Lily no matter the cost. And when he did, the Iron Serpents would learn exactly what it meant to provoke a Navy SEAL, and a brother who would do anything to protect the ones he loved. Cliffhanger. Author's note. At this juncture, we reach a significant cliffhanger. Lily is kidnapped, Jessica is devastated, and Caleb is ready to unleash everything he's learned as a SEAL to save his niece. The tension is peaking, and the confrontation is about to escalate into a full-scale rescue mission. What follows is the second half of the story, continuing the conflict toward its final resolution with multiple cliffhangers along the way. The narrative keeps expanding on the emotional, physical, and psychological toll of these events as it heads to a conclusion. Please continue to Part 2 below. Part 2, The Rescue Mission. Chapter 9, Gathering Intel. Darkness fell over Glenwich, cloaking the town in uneasy silence. Police lights flashed in Jessica's driveway, but an air of desperation lingered. The kidnappers had demanded no police involvement, a condition the authorities couldn't fully honor. Child abduction was too grave to ignore, but they knew overt action might endanger Lily. Jessica sat at the kitchen table, a hollow look in her eyes. She clutched a small stuffed rabbit Lily adored, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Caleb stood behind her, phone clutched in one hand, talking in a low voice to an old Navy buddy named Pete, who now worked in private security. Pete's knack for quick digital research was legendary. I need addresses, known associates, Caleb murmured, pacing. We have a name, Hank Fuller. Also Sam Ballmer, Kyle, unknown last name. Biker gang called Iron Serpents, possibly associated with a bar called Maddox's Roadhouse. Time is critical, Pete. He listened intently as Pete tapped away on a keyboard from states away, accessing databases Caleb normally wouldn't be able to. After several tense minutes, Pete relayed a few leads. An abandoned warehouse off Route 74, rumored to be a club hangout. A small farmhouse once owned by a deceased gang member. A deserted building near the old train depot. Places shady enough to keep a child hidden. Caleb jotted down the addresses and ended the call. He turned to Jessica, voice trembling with determination. We have some leads. The cops might have them too, but they're moving slowly. She wiped her tears. We can't wait. Lily's out there, terrified. Caleb nodded grimly. Stay with Officer Hayes. I'm gonna check these locations. Jessica shot to her feet. I'm coming with you. He shook his head. No, it's too dangerous. If something goes wrong, I can't protect both you and Lily. I need you safe here. Tears welled again. She's my daughter. I can't just sit here. His face softened. Jess, I know, but I can't lose you too. Please trust me. I'll bring her back. She hesitated, then sagged in defeat. She recognized the iron resolve in his eyes. You better, she whispered, voice raw with emotion. Officer Hayes, overhearing, stepped forward. You shouldn't do this on your own, Caleb. Let me dispatch a team. Caleb shook his head. They'll see cops coming a mile away and panic. Lily could get hurt. I can move faster alone. I'm not planning to engage if I see them. I'll call you. But let me at least scout the area. Hayes bit her lip, conflict evident. Ultimately, she nodded. Fine, but keep me updated. If you see Lily, let us handle the rescue. Don't try to go Rambo. He didn't respond to that. Instead, he grabbed the addresses and walked out into the night, slipping behind the wheel of Jessica's sedan. His own truck was too conspicuous with the battered window. The car pulled away from the curb quietly, leaving behind worried faces and swirling police lights. The first stop was the abandoned warehouse near Route 74, a looming structure behind a rusted chain-link fence. The gate was chained, but the lock looked flimsy. Caleb parked discreetly off the road and hopped the fence, scanning the area with a flashlight wrapped in red cellophane to minimize visibility. Broken windows, cracked asphalt. No sign of a child, no motorcycles, just stale air and graffiti. He continued inside, heart pounding. The wind whistled through holes in the walls, echoing eerily. He found dusty footprints, maybe from transients, but no sign of recent biker activity. After a thorough search, he slipped back out, frustration mounting. Next stop, the deserted farmhouse once owned by a gang member, now rumored to be a place they used for stashing stolen goods. Caleb took a dirt road through tall grass, parking half a mile away. He approached on foot, adrenaline surging. A rickety porch creaked under his weight, but the windows were boarded and there were no bikes in sight. He gained entry through a rear window, searching dim corridors by the light of his phone. The musty smell suggested no one had lived here in years. No Lily, no sign of recent activity. He left quietly, pulse pounding in his ears. By now, it was well past midnight. He considered giving up for the night, but the memory of Lily's whimper on that phone call refused to let him rest. He pressed on, heading for the last lead. A derelict building near the old train depot, rumored to be another gang hideout. He parked on a gravel shoulder by the train tracks, scanning the silhouette of the structure. It was 2 stories, windows broken, with a partially collapsed roof. But parked around the corner were 2 motorcycles, partially hidden by debris. Caleb's heart kicked. This is it. He cut the engine, slipping out quietly. Keeping to the shadows, he approached the building's side door. The faint glow of a light source flickered within. He pressed his ear to the wall, straining to hear. Distant voices, male laughter, muffled. He couldn't make out the words. Could Lily be inside? Or was this just a couple of bikers hiding out? Carefully, he inched around to a window. The glass was missing, replaced by plywood, but a corner was pried open enough to peer through. Inside, he glimpsed a makeshift living area. A few chairs, a couch, empty beer cans strewn about. He spotted Sam, the eagle-tattooed biker, sipping a drink. Kyle, the bandana-wearing man, lay on the couch, flipping through a phone. No sign of Lily, but Sam's voice cut through the silence. Hank wants us to keep watch here until morning. Then we move the kid again. Caleb's heartbeat soared. Lily was here, or at least she'd been here. Kyle grunted. Yeah, but where is she? That old storage room upstairs? Hard to stand the brats crying. Sam smirked, swirling the liquid in his plastic cup. Hank said no messing with her. She's leverage, so we keep her breathing. Rage and relief warred in Caleb's chest. Lily was alive. He needed to get her out now, but the memory of Hayes's warning echoed. Call us. If he tried to rescue Lily alone and something went wrong, he withdrew from the window, creeping back toward his car to make the call. But as he rounded the corner, a figure loomed out of the darkness. A biker who'd been standing guard. Caleb had no time to react before the man grabbed his arm. Hey, who the hell? Caleb twisted free, driving an elbow into the guard's gut. The man groaned, doubling over. Caleb struck again, knocking him out with a swift chop to the side of the head. The guard crumpled silently. Caleb exhaled, adrenaline surging. He had to move fast now. The unconscious man wouldn't stay down forever. He reached the car, phone in hand, only to realize he had no signal. The abandoned train depot was in a coverage dead spot, or the building structure was interfering. Furious, he realized time was running out. If that guard didn't check in soon, the others might suspect something. I can't leave Lily to drive off for a signal. The risk was too great they'd move her again or hurt her in the process. Taking a steadying breath, he gathered the small arsenal he'd brought. A tactical flashlight, zip ties, and a combat knife. No gun. He hadn't wanted to risk carrying it illegally across state lines. This was all he had. I'll have to do this the hard way. He prayed he wouldn't fail Lily. Back at the building, he slipped in through a side entrance, stepping silently over broken debris. The corridor was dim, only a flickering overhead bulb at the far end. Caleb could hear Sam and Kyle's voices from the main room. He moved up a creaking staircase, every sense on high alert. If Lily was in the storage room, that's where he needed to be. At the top, a dusty hallway stretched out. Doors lined the walls, most broken or hanging off their hinges. The second door on the left was closed, a padlock hanging from a hasp. Caleb pressed his ear to the door. Faint sniffles, a child's whimper. Lily. His heart nearly broke at the sound. He tested the lock. Sturdy, but rusted. Carefully, he inserted the tip of his knife into the hasp, applying pressure. The metal groaned. Hurry, hurry. Lily whimpered again, and he nearly shouted reassurance, but he couldn't risk alerting the bikers. At last, the hasp broke with a metallic snap. Caleb eased the door open. Inside, Lily sat on the floor, tears streaking her grimy cheeks, hugging her knees. A flickering lantern cast shadows. She looked up, eyes wide. For a split second, confusion flashed across her face. Then recognition. "Uncle Caleb," she whispered, voice trembling. He rushed in, gathering her in his arms. Relief flooded him. She was alive, physically unharmed as far as he could see. "It's okay, Lily. I've got you." Tears threatened to fall, but he forced them back. "We're going home." She clutched him desperately. "I'm scared," she whimpered. He hugged her, pressing a kiss to her hair. "It's okay, princess. I'm here." He scooped her up gently, checking the hallway. It remained quiet. So far, so good. But just as he stepped out, footsteps thundered on the stairs. Sam or Kyle or both had heard something. No time for stealth. Caleb bolted down the corridor, Lily clinging to him. He needed to get downstairs and out before they cornered him. A shout echoed from the main floor. "He's got the kid." Footsteps pounded. Lily clung tighter, crying out in panic. Caleb's breathing turned ragged. "I have to protect her first." He cut toward a window at the end of the hall, noticing a rusted fire escape outside. He kicked the rotting window frame, shattering glass, sending shards clattering. Lily cried in alarm. Through the dust, he spotted the metal stairs leading down. A glance over his shoulder revealed Sam barreling toward him with a gun in hand. "Stop!" Sam roared, leveling the weapon. Caleb dove through the window, shielding Lily with his body. The sharp edges of glass tore at his arms, but he kept Lily tight against him. They landed on the fire escape platform with a clang that reverberated. A shot rang out, the bullet whizzing overhead. Lily shrieked, terror in her small voice. Caleb forced himself to move, ignoring the pain in his arms. He descended the rickety steps, each footstep echoing. Another gunshot barked from above, striking the metal railing with a screech of sparks. Lily sobbed. Caleb grit his teeth, continuing down. From behind, a door slammed open. A figure emerged at the bottom of the fire escape. Kyle brandishing a crowbar, trapped from both sides. Caleb set Lily down behind him, telling her to hold on to the railing. Kyle grinned cruelly, advancing up the stairs, crowbar raised. Caleb lunged forward, intercepting the swing with his forearm. Metal collided with flesh, sending pain lancing through him. He retaliated with a swift punch to Kyle's jaw. The biker staggered, but didn't fall. Another gunshot from above forced Caleb to duck. Kyle swung again, forcing Caleb to dodge precariously close to the rail. "Uncle Caleb!" Lily screamed, tears streaming down her face. She huddled against the railing, trembling. Kyle swung overhead, and Caleb seized the opportunity, stepping inside the arc of the crowbar. He grabbed Kyle's wrist and twisted, forcing the metal tool free. With a brutal knee to the gut, he knocked the wind out of Kyle. The biker collapsed onto the narrow landing, gasping. A glance up showed Sam leaning out the broken window, aiming again. Caleb grabbed Lily, half lifting, half dragging her down the last flight of the fire escape. Another shot rang out, hitting the brick wall behind them. Dust showered them. At the bottom, they sprang off into the night, feet hitting the gravel. Heart racing, Caleb sprinted toward the car, Lily sobbing into his shoulder. Behind them, Sam's curses filled the air, followed by hurried footsteps. Just a few more yards. He wrenched the sedan's door open, placed Lily in the back seat, and jumped behind the wheel. The engine roared to life. Sam burst through the side door of the building, firing blindly. Bullets slammed into the rear quarter panel. Caleb floored the accelerator, tires squealing as the car fishtailed away. Lily wailed, and Caleb tried to soothe her while controlling the vehicle. In the rearview mirror, he saw Sam fumbling to mount a nearby motorcycle. Another figure emerged, possibly Hank or Kyle or both. Caleb sped onto the main road, heart hammering. Lily's sobs filled the car, and tears finally slipped from his own eyes. "It's okay, baby," he gasped, voice choked. "You're safe now." Headlights appeared behind them, motorcycles. They gave chase, engines snarling. Caleb's arms trembled on the wheel, adrenaline surging. The sedan was faster on paved roads, but the bikers had a head start if they took shortcuts. He dialed 911, never slowing. Finally, the call connected and he babbled the situation. The operator promised units were on the way. The chase tore through Glenwich's outskirts, weaving through side streets. Lily clung to the back seat, eyes wide with terror. Caleb forced calm, scanning mirrors. At one point, the motorcycles roared around a corner, trying to flank him. He swerved into a larger avenue just as red and blue lights flashed ahead. Police cruisers, alerted by the call. The bikers screeched to a halt, then turned and vanished down a dark alley. Caleb slammed the brakes near the cruisers, rolling down his window. Two officers rushed over. He pointed back where the bikers disappeared. "They took Lily. I got her back, but those men are behind me," he gasped. The officers called for backup, tearing off in pursuit. With Lily still crying, Caleb finally pulled over. He turned to gather her in his arms, relief washing through him like a tidal wave. She shook uncontrollably, burying her face in his chest. "I was so scared," she whimpered, tears soaking his shirt. He stroked her hair, voice thick. "Me too, princess, but you're okay now." He inhaled a shuddering breath, thanking whatever higher power had guided them through that horrifying gauntlet. Moments later, Officer Hayes arrived with sirens blaring. She took one look at Lily's tear-stained face and enveloped her in a gentle hug. Caleb collapsed against the sedan, letting paramedics check him. Blood stained his sleeves from the glass cuts, and bruises marred his arms. But the overwhelming feeling was relief. Lily was safe. Across town, other officers chased the bikers, though the night would tell if they caught them or not. For now, the only thing that mattered was that Lily was rescued, alive, and back in her family's arms. The next battle, holding the kidnappers accountable, still loomed. But with Lily's rescue, The iron serpents had crossed a line they couldn't uncross. Cliffhanger. Chapter 10. Facing Fallout. In the early morning hours, the small local hospital bustled with activity as paramedics patched up Caleb's injuries while Lily was examined for any harm. Jessica sat in a corridor chair, arms folded, expression haunted. She had rushed to the hospital the moment she learned Lily was safe. Now, she waited anxiously for the doctors to finish their examination. Finally, a nurse emerged, smiling kindly. "Your daughter is physically okay, just very frightened. We'd like to keep her for observation overnight, but I think she'll be fine." Tears of relief sprang to Jessica's eyes. She rushed into the hospital room, where Lily sat on the bed, hugging a teddy bear given by a nurse. The moment the child saw her mother, she burst into tears, reaching out. Jessica swept Lily into her arms, pressing her cheek to the girl's hair. "My baby, I'm so sorry," she murmured, heart aching. Lily clung to her, sobbing. "I want to go home, Mommy." "In a little bit," Jessica soothed. She stroked Lily's back, eyes brimming. "We'll go home soon, I promise." A wave of gratitude and admiration for her brother surged through her. Caleb saved her. Officer Hayes appeared in the doorway. Jessica pressed a kiss to Lily's forehead, then stepped outside to speak with the officer. "Caleb is finishing up in the ER," Hayes said. "Minor injuries, nothing serious." She paused, expression grim. "We're going to need statements from both you and Lily once she's calmer, and we'll be pressing charges: kidnapping, assault, attempted murder. Everything." Jessica nodded, too emotionally drained to muster anger. "Are they caught?" Hayes's lips thinned. "We arrested one of them near the building. He was injured after your brother knocked him out. Another crashed his bike during the chase. He's in custody, too. Sam Ballmer, the one with the eagle tattoo, got away with Hank Fuller. A manhunt is underway." A shiver ran through Jessica. Hank was still out there. The ringleader, the man who'd threatened them from the start. He won't give up, she thought. "What do we do now?" Hayes exhaled. "We'll put a patrol car outside your house. Until we catch Hank, we can't be sure of your safety. You might want to stay at a hotel or with friends. The cops can keep an eye on you." Jessica swallowed. "I want to go home with Lily. Caleb will stay with us." Hayes nodded slowly. "All right, but be careful." By dawn, Caleb was discharged. Stitches for his glass cuts, bandages on his arms, bruises forming across his torso. He looked exhausted but determined. The siblings reunited at Lily's bedside. Jessica stood, hugging him carefully. "Thank you," she whispered, tears shining in her eyes. "You saved her." He pressed his forehead to hers in a brief moment of solace. "She's safe now. That's all that matters." Lily stirred, waking from a brief nap. She saw Caleb and whispered, "Uncle Caleb," in a shaky voice. He gently took her small hand, and Jessica watched love and relief flood his expression. She would never forget what he had done. But she also knew Hank was out there, probably plotting his next move. They stayed at the hospital with Lily until afternoon, when the doctors cleared her to go home. A police escort followed them back, ensuring no bikers lurked en route. Jessica felt uneasy returning to the same house where Lily had once slept peacefully, never imagining such horrors. Now every shadow seemed menacing. True to her word, Hayes stationed a cruiser outside, and another patrolled the neighborhood. Jessica was grateful for the presence, though she doubted it would deter Hank if he was truly desperate. Inside, they tried to settle Lily, who clung to both her mother and uncle, refusing to let them out of sight. A knock on the door startled them. Caleb ushered Lily and Jessica into a back room, motioning them to stay quiet. Then he peered through the front window. It was Officer Hayes again. He relaxed, letting her in. She carried news. "We've got a tip. Hank Fuller is holed up somewhere in the next county. A known associate saw him heading that way. Caleb's jaw tightened. So he's on the run. Hayes gave a grim nod. Kidnapping a child crosses federal lines. The FBI might get involved. He won't have anywhere safe to hide for long. But that also makes him more dangerous. Jessica shivered, hugging herself. He might come back for revenge. He lost everything when he took Lily. Hayes nodded gravely. We're not ruling out the possibility, but we'll have eyes on you. I promise. After she left, Jessica slumped on the couch, exhausted beyond words. Lily curled next to her, still clutching the stuffed rabbit. Caleb paced, phone in hand, confirming a few more security measures. Then he knelt beside the couch. You should rest. Both of you. Jessica pressed a trembling kiss to Lily's forehead. I'll try. She forced her eyes shut, but behind her eyelids, images of Lily trapped in that dark room haunted her. Sleep felt impossible. A few hours later, the phone rang. Jessica jolted awake, not realizing she dozed off. Caleb answered. It was the police. They'd apprehended Kyle from the hospital after the crash. Sam was still at large with Hank. The words blurred in Jessica's weary mind. At least one more was off the streets. Night fell again. Another vigil. Another round of fear. Lily whimpered in her sleep, plagued by nightmares. Jessica held her close, singing lullabies. Caleb sat by the window, watching the patrol car's headlights shining down the street. The siblings exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Relief Lily was home, but dread that the worst might still be ahead. They had no idea that far away, in a dingy motel, Hank Fuller was plotting. For him, losing the girl was more than a defeat. It was an affront to his reputation. The Iron Serpents had crumbled. Several members arrested, the rest in hiding. Hank had lost face, lost power, and lost control. And in his mind, only one solution remained: to destroy the man responsible. Cliffhanger. Chapter 11. The final showdown. Days passed with cautious normality. Jessica tried to help Lily regain a sense of safety. Caleb took over tasks around the house, ensuring every door and window had reinforced locks. The police presence remained constant, yet Hank Fuller remained at large, and Sam Ballmer too. One afternoon, Lily was drawing at the kitchen table, carefully outlining a butterfly. Jessica supervised, feeling a pang of gratitude that her daughter was safe enough to enjoy small pleasures again. Caleb was in the next room, talking on the phone with Officer Hayes about new developments. Suddenly, Jessica's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Her stomach dropped. She shot Caleb a worried glance and answered. A distorted voice crackled. Tell your brother the time's up. Meet me at the old quarry if he wants to end this. Then the line went dead. Jessica stared at the phone, heart pounding. She relayed the message to Caleb. He cursed under his breath. It's Hank. He wants a confrontation. Tension weighed heavy as they debated what to do. Jessica's first instinct was to call Hayes. But Caleb hesitated. He'll see the cops coming a mile away, and who knows what he's got planned. He might have Sam there with guns. If we corner him, it could turn into a shootout. Jessica clenched her fists. He's threatening us. Are you just going to walk into his trap alone? Caleb's expression hardened. It's not his trap. It's ours. I know that quarry. Spent summers swimming there as a kid. There are multiple vantage points. I can plan an approach. Fear churned in Jessica's gut. But it's still dangerous. A flicker of a reassuring smile. I'm not naive. I'll have a plan. Just trust me. She swallowed. I do. He called Hayes, explaining Hank's challenge. She was appalled. Caleb, you can't go alone. At least let me post men nearby. Caleb considered it. Okay, but not too close. He'll bolt if he sees cops, and we may never catch him. Or worse, he might come for Jess and Lily when we're not expecting it. Hayes agreed to keep her team on standby, a discreet distance away. Caleb would wear a wire allowing them to monitor. If Hank tried to kill him, the police would swarm. It was a dangerous gambit. But as the sun dipped on the horizon, painting the sky in gold and red, Caleb drove out to the old quarry alone. The site was a sprawling excavation pit from decades past, now partially filled with water. Jagged rock walls surrounded an expanse of dirt and gravel. Weeds had grown tall in some areas, giving limited cover. Caleb parked on a higher ridge, scanning with binoculars. He saw no sign of movement. The place was silent, ominous. He'd come armed this time with Hayes's covert blessing, a small handgun, legally borrowed from the station for self-defense. He tucked it into his waistband, wearing a loose jacket over it. Microphone taped near his collarbone, transmitting to the police van parked several miles away. He walked carefully across the rocky terrain. Pebbles crunched underfoot, echoing loudly in the stillness. Tension coiled in every muscle. He had faced war zones, terrorists, pirates. But now it was personal. Hank had kidnapped Lily, terrorized Jessica. Caleb wanted justice and vengeance. Near the water's edge, he spotted Hank. The biker stood with arms crossed, a menacing silhouette against the fading light. Sam Ballmer loomed nearby, eagle tattoo visible even from a distance, holding a shotgun. Caleb paused, letting them see he came unaccompanied. Hank smirked, though his eyes gleamed with hatred. "You actually showed," he called, voice echoing off the quarry walls. "Too bad your sister isn't here to watch me finish you." Caleb halted a dozen yards away. "This ends tonight, Hank. You're out of options. The gang is done. Give yourself up." Hank barked a laugh. "You cost me everything. My men, my operation. Now I'm gonna make you pay." He glanced at Sam. "Search him." Sam approached warily, shotgun pointing at Caleb's chest.